Hello, everybody, and good morning, Rick. How are you? Or good afternoon to you.
Good.
It's our
It's afternoon here, and good morning to you, Louisa, and all of your guest viewers wherever you are in the world. Greetings from Bali.
Oh, that's a really lovely welcome, and we've already got people watching. Isn't that wonderful? So,
It is.
This is our weekly catch up. And we chat about all sorts of different things, don't we?
We do.
I'm just going to put a banner up, and I'm just going to make a little change, because I put this banner up yesterday, and I had a typo in it. But it now says, join us if you feel moved, touched, and inspired. Yesterday it didn't have the U in, and so it sounded a little bit dodgy. But anyway, we've got it up so people know that they can join us. So we're talking about the value of values. Where do you want to start? Because we kind of throw ourselves into these conversations each week. I'd love to know, where do you want to start, Rick?
Right at the beginning.
Okay.
I consider, well, let's define what values are first.
Yes.
Values are what we consider to be important for us. They may not be for anybody else. They may be shared, but what we consider is important. Yeah. And obviously you can prioritize them. And I do recommend to people to, once they've established what their core values are, is to prioritize them. But we'll get into that in a moment. So we're not talking about the value of something that is putting a price on it, or some
my car.
Like that. Yes, exactly. But we're talking about values, that which is important to you, to us. Yeah. So that's the beginning. That's the definition.
Okay.
So why is it important? Well, everything in life is about relationships. We have a relationship with our body. We have a relationship with our mind, our emotions, the spirit that animates this body. We have a relationship with family, our own family, extended family, communities, nations, our car, nature. Everything is about relationships.
Yeah.
So if we are to have functional relationships, and I think most of us want that, then we need to have at least some form of alignment, coherent alignment with our values.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the values, and this is not as a judgment, but the values of, let's say, two guys deal in arms. They're arms dealers and they're drug dealers. So the net end result of their activities.
You're talking about government.
Did I mention that? There is an organization in America beginning with C, and it has 3 letters in it. Okay, let's just assign this to people, or we'll both be in trouble.
Bring it on.
Yes, yeah, we're troublemakers.
Yeah, we don't need to support anymore.
These two guys are both arms dealers and drug dealers. The net end result of their activities, their sales and negotiations, is that somebody could likely get killed from the arms, and somebody could overdose on heroin from the drugs.
Yeah.
So but as far as they're concerned, they're the best of mates. They're totally aligned with their values, right? Which is to make a lot of money at the expense of other people. That doesn't matter, because we don't value compassion. It's all about money and power and greed. So those two guys could get on absolutely famously. However, if they sauntered into a dinner party or a gathering that you and I were doing, I think we would soon sort out that they were not welcome there, because there would be such a mismatch of our values.
Yes.
So this is why in any form of relationship, we need to just, first of all, we need to know what our own values are. If we don't know what we value, then how do we know what to look for in someone else? if we are
Yeah.
pursuing that as a relationship, as a work, as an employer, as an employee, as a relationship, a family relationship, whatever form of relationship it takes, there needs to be some match of values. And
Yeah.
having counseled lots and lots of people with broken marriages,
Mm.
it becomes very apparent that there is a mismatch in the core values,
Yeah.
quite a serious mismatch that was destined for this relationship not to be able to have any great longevity in it, right?
Yeah.
Despite the
Can I
fact that you might. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
where do you see in those examples, where do you see the biggest mismatch in terms of values? You know, what kind of values are the ones that are so easy to like falsely interpret or to get confused over?
I would say integrity would be at the top. And let's break down integrity. It's rather a nebulous statement, but
Mm.
integrity for me consists of honesty,
Hmm.
openness, truthfulness,
Yeah.
faithfulness,
Yeah.
reliability. And when you say you're going to do something, you do it. That
Yeah.
package to me is in integrity. And that's where there is, most times in all the counseling I do, there's been a mismatch there,
Mm.
where one party has not been totally honest with the other party,
Yeah.
or has been unfaithful to the other party, and not being truthful in the communications or open in the communication.
Yeah.
So that one would be destined for the scrap heap, I would suggest.
Mm.
So what I do with the coaching is that I get people to write down what are your values and
Mm.
what values are important to you, because when you're dating or you're in a new relationship or new work, you will want to know very quickly what are the shared values, because if
Yeah.
they're not present, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very truthful. I like
Mm,
that. That really rings true. I'm in a situation at the moment, um, um, which was it kind of came together very, very quickly. And in that list of values that you kind of packaged as integrity, um, one of the ones which I think I was very, very high on, like, you know, all the initial ones, like the honesty, the truthfulness, the um, reliability, etc., etc. I consider, you know, I've taken it very, very seriously, and my integrity is one that I've, like, the actual I'm going to carry this out, I've changed my mind on, because the values that I went into an arrangement with, it appears that the person that I've been in relationship with, not my husband, I need to say, hasn't been straight, hasn't been reliable, has been changing the message left, right, and center. And so it feels like we've been kind of putting forward with all of, you know, like really going forward with our word. And then the very last thing, we just realized, you know, this is a crazy situation where we are being our word. And so the last word we've had actually is to say, well, we're not going to do this anymore. And I find that really hard, because one of the things I learned from you in earnest, like the 11 years ago or 12 years ago now when we met, was when you said, when you're going to do something, you do it. And so it's really hard for me to recognize that actually that's going to hurt me if I carry on doing that. I need to relax on that one for now. And yeah, just make good somewhere else, or, you know,
yeah,
start over again. It's a tough one.
it is a tough one. And, it's one thing. We have to be these values. We can't just know them intellectually. We
Yeah.
can't go around sprouting. And we'll look at our politicians of the day, where they, prior to getting into office, they will make all of these profoundly exciting new changes and things that they're going to do. And then very often 180 degrees happens.
Yeah.
So how do we counter that?
Yeah.
Because these are just spoken words. They have no depth behind them. They have no honesty or authenticity behind them.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is it's what I call look, don't listen. Now, as a counselor, I have to be a very good listener, right?
Yeah, of course.
I have to be very present for my clients.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing in the situation, not necessarily with my clients, but what I'm endeavoring when I'm talking to people, is I want to establish, is there a match or mismatch between what they're saying and what is appearing in their lives, what they are doing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to sprout out that I'm an honest person, I'm trustworthy, I value harmony and equality and fairness. Those would just roll off the tongue so easily. But what we need to do, and this is where, romantic relationships become clouded, is that we start to see the person putting that person on a pedestal and not seeing what's actually there. It's almost like going into denial. And I found out that denial is not a river in Egypt. It's a much worse case than that. It's just the rose-colored glasses go on and we don't see, because we're enamored with the situation. It's exciting, it's new experiences, and we don't want to see what's there. When the honeymoon period is finished, we start seeing that this person is not as perfect as I imagined them.
Yeah.
And this is often the disappointment in relationships. So I've often talked about what how you and Carl met and what your agreement was, and then you took time to find out about each other, and you took time to know about each other, rather than. I tell everybody about that.
Really?
Yes, it's such an admirable thing, because in a relationship, you want to escalate it to the peak of beautiful experience as quickly as possible. And yet, in doing so, we can miss some vital signs. And to do that, we really need to trust our intuition and trust our heart. If our intuition saying, "Oh, that's a bit strange," he says he loves animals, but I saw him kick that dog because it was peeing on his back wheel. Oh, well, there's a little warning sign, right? Just a little warning sign. So the overarching message in that, if whatever relationship we're going to create, and if it looks like it's going to be long term, then give yourself the lead up to this. Do your due diligence. If you you want to work for a company, right? You want to make sure that they're not secretly building arms or doing destructive work or putting poisons and chemicals into the ground or people's bodies. We need to do the due diligence and really find out what are their values and are they living them? Are they embodying these within the company? So really, really important. So I always ask people, go away, make your list of values. Perhaps Google the top 20 values, human values, have a look through them, pick them out randomly. Don't go overboard. I think if you look at 20 values in one day, that's more than enough, right? And then pare them down and then try to prioritize them. So if you're at the top is honesty, then you're going to be looking for that in wherever you're going, whatever this relationship is bound for. You're going to be looking, is this person, is this group, is this company, are they being honest? Are they? And that takes a little bit of digging around sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I love the way you've introduced the idea of values. Definitely. I recognize one thing I've really learned just in this last couple of weeks is how much I value freedom and the freedom to be me and the freedom to be accepted as I am, which isn't necessarily a value in itself, or I don't think it is. But
Authenticity
without,
is.
yeah, but without freedom, like without feeling that I'm free in the company I'm in,
Mm.
it's never going to work.
No,
It's like
no, it's not.
level of acceptance.
Yes.
And I
And
love
now,
your description about like
sorry.
the rose tinted glasses because you know, I'm pretty like wide-eyed, doe-eyed, when I meet people. I think it comes from a hopeful place, and you can't hope things better than they are, can you? I like to see someone's good side when I meet them.
Well, I think we need lots of hope. I think that's a
Yeah.
value that we need to embody,
Mm,
because without hope, we've got hopelessness and
yeah.
helplessness and
Yeah.
victimhood. So
Yeah.
hope is one of my values,
Yeah.
right? And I try to give hope to people
Mm,
and maintain it within myself. So knowing your circumstances, because I do know a little bit of your backstory there,
yeah.
you see
Yeah.
the difficulty is that you can meet somebody with on the surface appears to be absolutely fabulous. And I remember you telling us how blessed you felt to
Mm,
to to have this person, and how
yeah.
inviting and encompassing everything was, and the location and the
Yeah.
arrangement.
Mm,
But what's the only thing that was lacking was enough time to
mm,
be able to establish, is this
mm.
person being totally
Honest.
honest and
Yeah.
truthful? And
Mm,
how do you do that if you're looking for a place to live, or you've you're buying a car at a car yard, or
yeah.
somebody a next door or a neighbor down the road that you don't know is got a car for sale? How do
Mm,
you establish this before
mm.
you actually shelve out your hard-earned money, or you move your house and family? So
Yeah.
it's challenging. And I remember how enamored you were with the choice,
Mm.
but what was
The
not
timing
being
was thing.
portrayed by the other party was they weren't being totally honest with you and trustworthy, and they had an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one. And it's one that put I mean, obviously, it's actually one that's led to a lot of growth between my husband and I, because one of the things that I didn't realize was that there was this gap between us that was um, not growing, but there was, where there's space between you as people, and you don't necessarily realize that there is a little bit there until someone else tries to enter that space and kind of go just squeeze in. And there was this little bit that existed between us about where I shared my truth and whether or not it was believed or not. And so I shared a few warning signs that I'd come up with over the last 2-3 months, and my husband didn't believe me. And that was something that was really huge for me. He thought maybe I might have been exaggerating, um, or just being oversensitive. And to give him his due, as an empath and somebody who uses intuition, it's actually quite understandable that he might think that I might be oversensitive because it's my oversensitivity or my sensitivity that my job rests on, my ability to sense things ahead of time. And so the hardest thing for me was the gap between that getting bigger and bigger, where I'm saying, look, this is the truth for me. I need you to trust me. And the suspicion that I might have been over egging something. And so in the end, I just decided this will, if there is a situation here, the mask will slip. And so I just need to be patient and wait for that mask
Mm,
to slip, and then see how my husband reacts to it. And the moment that
yes.
mask slipped, trust me, once the mask slipped, it then kept slipping. And so it was like the truth was just revealed by itself. And then my husband was able to say, Wow. Okay. I totally get it. Let's take action.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that has been really, really a good learning for both of us. You know, how
Indeed.
to, and I don't know how we'll do it again, but it's been such a strong learning that we won't forget it. Not worry.
Yes. Well, you see, as always, you always look on the bright side of life.
Oh, bless you. I've been
That
swearing
would make
quite
a good.
loudly as
That
well.
would make a good song, wouldn't it? You are already embracing what have you gained from this, not what you've lost, but
Yeah.
what have you gained? Because we are creating our reality, whether we consciously or unconsciously put ourselves into situations that ultimately become very uncomfortable. Right? We have gained something from it, and we're the causation of it. For whatever reason it is, we needed to learn these lessons to be more discerning, or to be more intuitive, or to jump in quite so spontaneously without losing our spontaneity, but doing the due diligence and maybe testing the waters, finding a way to test the water to see if it's going to work. Right? So there's heaps of lessons in there.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's been great at helping us refine what we are actually looking for. And I realise now that one of the things that we were wanting to do was just really idealistic, but not based in any kind of reality. The idea of living in a multi-generational household was something that we'd always wanted to do, in particular with our own parents. We now realise that actually it's conditional. We only want to live in a multi-generational household. Sorry, these flies are really getting to me. It really is fly season here in Portugal. But we only want to live in a multi-generational household with people who are accountable and who are willing to do the kind of energy work that we are, and also the energy of fun has to be there. You know, like if the life is being sucked out of a situation with like a sort of like a pessimism. I guess you're talking about my hopefulness. I think that's the thing that I've also found hard is, you know, like my hope. Oh my God, my hopefulness being dashed against somebody else's unhopefulness has been a real challenge. And so, like you say, as these mismatches get revealed, it tends, the situation has gone as we go through. I'm noticing more and more and more and more mismatches. I think we possibly, is it true that we're able to live with a certain amount of mismatch without realizing, but once it starts to reveal itself, it's like, whoa, we're falling. Is that your experience?
Well, I think you're describing the slippery slope. We inevitably start off with a few slips before we start careering down the hill. And it's those warning signs that we need to heed, so that we are seeing what's there. And underlying this, I believe that we are all good at heart.
Yes.
I think I've said this before. You and I have raised little babies, looked into their eyes and held them up till about 2 years of age and not seen any evil or felt anything bad from them. So they have to learn it. It's a learned conditioned reaction. So people learn to be separate and superior and judgmental and all of that. And so it's very hard for an empath. It's very hard for a good person to see evil, to face evil. And there's, I don't know if I can remember the saying, it won't be that what's the saying? It's something about, it won't be that we can stop what's going on in the planet, but it will be good people will sit still and not do anything about it.
Yes.
I can't remember who said that, and I haven't quoted it very well, but
it's fine. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's not enough to be good and turn a blind eye, is it? You know, I think when you realize something, you've got to take action.
Yes, and it's fear of consequences that stops us doing that. What will people think, or what if I'm wrong, or what coziness will I have to give up? Right?
Mm.
What comfort will I have to give up in order to live my own values?
Yes.
So we tend not to see, and I call it evil sometimes, but I rather replace the word evil with ignorance.
Yeah.
It's ignorance. People do cause harmful things to other people and the planet and themselves because they are not aware of who they are at the core and that we're all connected. So that term is ignorant, not as in a judgmental way, but as it's our ignorance of our own core, I guess.
Mm.
And that will produce, when we feel separate, we can now cause harm to other people.
Yes.
So, and good people can't imagine. I mean, if you think about what's going on in the planet, it's hard. Empaths and good people have a hard time getting their head around it. How could they do this?
Yeah.
How could you wage war, $2 trillion war in Afghanistan, walk out with the place in a basket case and leave behind so many people and so much more problems than they had in the first place? You know, so it's hard for us to conceive this because it's not part of our reality. So unfortunately, those blinkers stop us seeing from what's there. We want to see the good in people, but and without judging, there's a difference between judging and observing. So we can judge somebody, and that's a criticism, a critical aspect that we're loading on them, or we can just make an observation. Right?
Yeah.
I have observed this behavior. There's no judgment on it, right? It's just an observation, and I think we need to be better at that, so that we can observe these little, when the points go out, when the values start mismatching. Oh, I am observing that there is a mismatch in these values. I'm observing that the level of honesty that I impose upon myself, that person is not imposing on themselves. Therefore, there's a mismatch in the honesty level. Right?
Yeah.
So it's tricky. This is part of
really
this is what we need to teach our kids. This is what learning is about, not education. We need to equip our kids and our schools with these values. The first thing, the values-driven education, just as we're moving towards values-driven corporations and companies and families, communities. So that's not easy.
It's funny because I guess what's really going on in the world is a mismatch of values, because in some respects, we're all being valued right now about our compliance, and if you comply to this whole list of criteria, you're valued as somehow more beneficial to society. Your complicit agreement, to do something is seen as being very, very favorable. And if you're questioning things and asking for information and this, that, and the other, it's like, so
yes,
I've got a very big mismatch with how the world is being managed by those that appear to be in charge. And that's quite a tough one. I think that's actually why we moved to a different country, so that we're a little bit sheltered from it. Like, you don't really hear the news so much when you're in another country, do you? Because you can't always understand it if it's in a different language. We've rendered ourselves like 2-year-olds, who are participating but don't participate with the full knowledge of what's going on. Like 2-year-olds, they're not really aware of what's going on, in their actual world. They just know what's in their immediate vicinity. And so we've kind of taken some of the pain and anguish out by not being able to see it so clearly. Does that make sense? I mean, you must have felt that a little bit, living in Bali. Looks like I've lost you. But I tell you what, you've been caught at a very handsome angle, you lucky man. I'm normally caught like this. I wonder if you're going to come back.
I am back. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Did you hear any of that?
I did. I heard most of it, and it just
did you hear me say again? Did you hear me say you've been caught at a very handsome angle. You know, when the video goes, normally when the video goes, I get caught like this. But you were caught like this in a very kind of thoughtful pose. That's what I'm saying. You were very lucky that you weren't like that.
Yeah. Well, probably the thoughtful pose was, how long is this one going to last? So,
yeah, how does the matching from, you know, your need as a person and the country you live in reflected? Because I guess you're in a similar position to us. When you moved to Bali, presumably you couldn't quite understand all of the political ramifications of it, given that you couldn't speak the language fluently. And I still don't know if you do, but at least you're connected to the language. Yeah, how does that sort of fit in?
Well, once again, without debasing Indonesia, a few years ago there was a lot of corruption. A lot of that has been remedied now with the current president, but there was rife corruption, and that percolated down from the top into just about every sphere of activity throughout the hierarchical structure.
Yeah.
And that smacks against me. I have to remind myself that I made a conscious choice to live here, and that the benefits far outweigh the negative sides of things. And I maintain a strong stranglehold on my values. So I'm not tempted to go down that way and do anything in the form of corruption. And this leads us to, we not only have to know our values, we have to embody them. We have to live them. We have to be a living example of them. And this is particularly important as a mother and father, is that our children know energetically and know what's being said and done, and they can feel the energy that is being put out there. So they will sense that something's not quite right here. Right?
Yeah.
As they get a little bit older and they're starting to use their mental faculties, they will recall, oh, mum or dad said this, but what they're doing is something different.
Yeah.
So we really need to embody these and to really be a living example of them unwaveringly. And in a society that is built on corruption, this is a challenge. And if you look at our world now, it's corrupted. It's in many, many ways. So this leads us to.
Sorry, we want to live somewhere as well. It's I think it's almost, well, it's unrealistic to expect that you're going to live somewhere where you're going to agree with the foundational value system.
Yeah, I think you can make choices that, you know, the pros and cons, you can go through the list of things and have a look at it. Can you live with the mismatch? If it's a one-on-one relationship in a relationship by choice, and there's a mismatch, you have the choice to leave. So it's a question of just really embodying and living them as an example. And for me, for a very long time, I've believed that my integrity is more important than my immediate life.
Yes.
And that's one that I've always stuck by. So that means that upholding my values for both myself, my family, and my friends is more important than clinging on to some life. If I was asked to do something, well, you know, my history in the Vietnam War, if I was asked to repeat that, I would just say, no, I'm not going to go. Well, there's consequences of that. Well, bring it on then. Right? So that's honoring our integrity. In that case, it's honoring our values. And I don't think we really I think when we do honor them, it's almost like the universe rewards us for that. There will be challenges, but we will be rewarded in some way. The moment we step out of them, we've started to become inauthentic. And there's the slippery slope down to, corruption and greed and dishonesty and all of that sort of stuff. We don't want to go there.
Yes, it's interesting how you talk about rewards, because actually during this period of time where I've been in a situation that turns out wasn't very authentic to my value systems, the level of work coming into me kind of went and just in this last week, I've had 4 new bookings, and all of a sudden, literally, I made the decision, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, there we go, back to normal. It's incredible how that happens. Like, how did that happen? Was it just that I was out of alignment and it was sensed throughout the world?
Yes,
it's really.
It's coherent alignment. The most natural one is the head and the heart. This is the work of the Heart Math Institute, where we bring our head and our heart into a coherent alignment. But then we can multiply that by are we in alignment with the earth? Are we honoring and respecting the earth, or are we degrading it in some way? So now, as you are honoring the earth and respecting it and doing and giving back and nurturing its wellness, it will reward you with, there's some nice cauliflowers in the garden or whatever. And then we take it a bit further to our authentic self, our spiritual being. When we're in alignment with that, our life purpose, and all of those beautiful values of honesty and caring and compassion and heart-centeredness, we bring that into coherent alignment. And then if there is a source of all that is, then we come into alignment with that divine blueprint, if we want to call it. So when all that comes into alignment, that's when the magic happens. That's when you get 4 new clients in a week.
It's quite amazing.
Yes, it is. It is. It's miraculous.
And that's when you realize, well, something big was going on there.
Yes, we are part of a bigger picture, and if we step out of that, we're out of cohesion, out of alignment with it, and pretty well all of our woes is because we've disconnected from the source of who we really are, for whatever reason, and that's the remedy. And the
contrast, isn't it? How do you know what your values are unless you live outside of them and feel the pain of it? I think that's the thing that has been going on for me, has been this like my I wouldn't have agreed to go into a situation that felt out of alignment with my values, so I obviously believed that they were in alignment with them, in as much that I was in a situation that would help to care and promote compassion and collaboration between people. I mean, that's high on my list, but then I guess it's helped me to shape my own value systems. Like, do I put care and compassion above observing my own freedom and having the freedom to make my own decisions? And the answer to that is no. Being a free agent and being able to make my own decisions, because I trust that even in my free moments, I will always choose the caring and compassionate journey forwards. But when I feel like I don't have the freedom to make those choices, or that there's some kind of bind over them, that was a really big warning sign to me. So now I'm able to very accurately put freedom right at the top of, and it might not be right at the top. I could get tested again to find out exactly what I stand for. But this has been a period of, like being in you've watched Harry Potter, haven't you?
Yes.
Have you watched Harry Potter? Like when Harry Potter first goes to Hogwarts and they sit under the sorting hat, and the sorting hat tells them where they need to be. I feel like I've been sorted a little bit, getting in order where my values are and what I'm most keenly aligned to.
Yes. Beautiful. So this is leading you to something much better, much grander. And let's face it, we have to experience what we don't want in order to know what we do want.
Yes,
So
it's exciting.
while it started off really well, and it was what you wanted, there was a degradation in, or a mismatch between what was being said and what was being done. And you got to experience that, both sides of the coin of that person, and now can consciously make a very respectable and authentic decision as to, do we carry on or do we move somewhere else? So how would you have arrived at that if you hadn't experienced what you didn't want?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it wouldn't have happened. Bit of a slap in the face, but it's all good. And I'm already feeling. It's funny, isn't it, when you actually, like, when does the magic start happening again? Is it when you actually have made the change, or is it when you make the decision? In my experience, the moment you decide on a new course of action, even if you're not even there yet, that's when the magic starts happening. And it almost starts happening to help you live that new direction and take a step forward. It all starts with from my experience, it starts with your conscious intention. I'm very grateful for that.
I was going to say it starts when you come into alignment, consciously come into alignment with your values, your purpose, what you want to achieve in your life for you and your family. When that alignment comes in, then everything else follows it. Well, if it wouldn't come to you if it was a mismatch. If there was out of alignment, it wouldn't come. But the moment you come into alignment, that's the starting point for the magic to happen.
That's fantastic. As you said that, I realized there was another one that actually needed to be on my list, which is clarity. The ability to be clear and to seek clarity. And so when a situation lacks that clarity, I guess you could call it transparency as well. But there's something that it seems bright in the light of things when you can see things really clearly. Clarity is obviously very important to me as well.
And that comes through shining the light of consciousness upon the situation or the circumstances. So until we do that, it's all a bit fuzzy, isn't it? A bit in the dark. So out of the confusion, out of the unclearness comes clearness or clarity. So and it doesn't harm to have a good dose of critical thinking. It doesn't harm to have a good dose of intuition, and a good dose of alignment. All of those things will bring about clarity, not necessarily overnight, right? Because some of our challenges could be lifetime challenges. So we're not necessarily going to get everything in one big bolt of lightning, although sometimes I wish it would happen that way. But we live in a dualistic universe. So there's always going to be the other side of the yin-yang symbol. So it's not going to be magic from here on out. But it's never the place, the person, the place, or the circumstances that is the problem. It's how we see it. So when we change our thinking and our perspective on what is transpiring, this challenge now has become an opportunity for change, an opportunity for growth. So just seeing it from that perspective just nullifies the challenge remarkably.
Yes, it's incredible how that happens. So that's actually helped me understand my own value system much more accurately. And in fact, the computer has just stopped again, the connection, and you were once again caught in a very reflective pose. Looking quite considered.
I've got a mask, actually. I have to confess. As soon as it looks like it's going out, I put this mask in front of me. So
can we have a little guess at each other's values? Because I've come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I like the number 7 because there's 7 colours of the rainbow that we know of, etc., etc. 7. I like the number 7. But I've just written 7 things that have really come up in my consciousness since we've been talking. Do you want to have a guess? I have named a few of them already, I guess, but I'd love to have a guess at yours as well.
Okay. I would say integrity would be at the top of your. Or let's not prioritize them. Just say them out. I would say on your list, integrity is one of them.
Yep.
On your list.
Yes.
Okay. Your turn.
I would say integrity is definitely on your list as well. I'd say that's almost number 1, if not definitely number 1, because that's the biggest thing I learned from you, I think, having met you. But I mean, that was 12 years ago, and people do change over time. But I think something like integrity is so integral that it doesn't shift.
Very good. So if we talk about integrity, we're talking about honesty and trustworthiness and truthfulness.
Yes.
Equality.
Oh, I haven't actually put it on my list. Actually, I would have put it on my list if I thought about it. But I think you are revealing that about yourself. There is room for a bit of more of that. I kind of take it as seen that is altogether part of the package. But it's not, is it? Like a lack of superiority, or like the value of trying to remove superiority out of my personality matrix is kind of important.
Yes. So what you're talking about, I see humility as being a lack of ego.
Humility, yes.
Humility is egoless. The opposite of that is I'm better than you, I'm superior, I'm blah, blah, blah.
I would put humility high up on your list, as opposed to equality. I think humility would be there, because that's something that I've never got from you, is that you're all superior or anything. Even though I think you are a superlative person, I don't think you hold it over others.
I don't think so either. trying to think back if I did, and I don't think that's there.
No.
So
you don't pull rank, do you, that often?
No.
And
I believe in.
If you did, I don't think it would be done in the feeling of I'm pulling rank on you. Now listen here, young lady. Let me tell you something. I don't think you'd ever do that.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Oh, that was another one to put on, which I think would be on your list, and that's respect for others.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do try to be very respectful. And for you, harmony, I think, is important.
Yes, I haven't actually written that, but I put joyous. And to me, I feel in joy when things are harmonious. I put joyous and loving, which are probably very similar. I think both lead to harmony. Harmony is actually a nicer way of saying it, I think, because it gives an element of balance, doesn't it?
It does.
Whereas loving and joyousness just sounds like if it's not loving, it's not worth it.
Yes.
But harmony, I'm going to link those together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Harmony is another way of describing the cohesion between the heart and the head, isn't it? The head and heart are in harmony, or we're in harmony with nature. We're in harmony with life.
Yes, I like that, which has made me actually add in another, I don't know if it's a value, but something to aim for. I've put balance as something that you might have on your list, because you do mention the yin yang quite a lot, and the idea of equanimity, and like it's very easy for us to judge things and say, Yeah, in fact, I heard this story that Carl tells every now and again. I'll probably get it wrong, but this man is having a conversation with his neighbor, and he says, "Oh, your son's just fallen down and broken his leg. That's a terrible thing." And the guy says, "Maybe." Then the next day, the king and the army come to collect all the guys to take them off to war, and they don't take the son. And then the neighbor says, "Oh wow, that was lucky." And the neighbor says, "Maybe." And then the whole story goes back that this one bit of information is seen as desirable, undesirable, desirable, undesirable, but the father just sees everything as information,
Yes.
rather than judging it.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite a good lesson to learn.
It is. It is. So, what else would you have on your list? Justice.
Oh, there's something else I haven't put on, but yes, if I was to write that, I would probably write fairness, but justice. Yeah, it's actually sounding like a tarot deck, isn't it?
Probably is. Yes. I don't do the tarot, but I do know of it.
Yeah. Wow. Maybe my list is just written from a place of where I am right now, actually, because what I've got on my list is freedom as being right at the top, truth, hope, that things are loving and joyous, which I've now put as harmonious, integrity and clarity. But yeah, what I like about respect, justice, equality, etc., is that it implies something about the other people you're in relationship to. And my list is very much about the qualities I'm seeking in my life. And it doesn't, it would have a knock-on effect with others, but it doesn't fully bring into account the fact that things can get unbalanced. I like the fact that you've put in, the idea of humility and respect, or that we've spoken about it.
Yeah. And one, I think, we'll just finish off with one more each. Sure. You value love.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I know it's not from me or from Carl, but that I don't know who said it, but what would love do in this situation? What's the most loving thing to do right now? Often, when I'm in a dilemma, Carl and I just ask each other, what would love do right now? And it's a really powerful question. You can obviously put in, what would humility do right now? You can change it.
Yes.
But,
yes.
Yeah. It's a very
so that was quote from Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch.
Yeah. I loved reading that. I read that years ago. I was living at home, like I was a teenager, and I remember how much it stuck in my mind.
Yes.
Because my reality was that I was always having a conversation with God, always very conscious of that, as I'm sure you were. So how are you going forth today?
I'm not going forth. I'm going first.
Yeah, okay. How are you going first today, given that you're 8 hours ahead of me? How are you going forward with your values today? How are your values reflected in the rest of your day, Rick?
I value resourcefulness, so I've
that's good.
The kids and Lita, my wife, left at 7:30 this morning for school and shop. And I've been diligently rewriting my book and continuing to work on that. So there's persistence, there's commitment, there's passion. All of those are rolled into this resourcefulness. So that's how my day's been. And I've got 2 calls after this one to Italy, another one to London. And that will be pretty much my day.
Quite an international day then, given that I'm in Portugal as well.
Indeed, it is. It's lovely. Wednesdays are my favorite day of the week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. So that was really good. I've got a little baby freaking out.
I thought I could hear that. Yes. Good timing. Good timing.
Yeah, it really is. So all in all, what we've come up with is actually quite a good list of values. I loved the addition of persistence, passion, creativity, resourcefulness. There's it's almost like an identikit of of things that work for us, but might actually
Yes.
work for other
Yes.
people.
Yes. So what I would recommend to your viewers and listeners, that if you haven't ever sat down, and maybe you did a long time ago, but maybe it's a good time now to refresh because of what's been happening in the world, to refresh and re-explore what are your values. Work at about 8 or 10 of them. You can have more, you can have less, and then prioritize them and see, then observe your own behavior and the behaviors of others, but mainly your own behavior to see, am I living that? Am I really truthful this value? And when you start embodying it and being an example, that's when the magic happens.
I love that. I couldn't have said that better myself. I literally couldn't. That was amazing. So all I can do is just thank you so much once again for joining me here today. And for anyone that's listening live or even later on, thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, I can't wait for our next conversation, Rick. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, Louisa. And we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of love.
Love back to you.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.